You can hear now? Yes? Can you hear me now? Okay. So maybe it was just the connection that was maybe messy. All right, perfect. That's good. So as I was saying before, I'm just sharing some of the things that we've been using here at UCSC. My name is Pedro Morales, and I work at the math department in UC Santa Cruz. And since Wednesday, we actually went remote. So our quarter was going to end this Friday. So today was the last day of classes, but on Wednesday we actually switched to remote. That means that I actually had to teach two classes, Wednesday and Friday, remote. And the document that I shared at the top of the chat, it has a compilation of the tools that I have been using and compiling. Again, there are a lot of very interesting tools around. I know that the MAA also had a couple of webinars on how to do remote instruction. So I think that that's a very good resource. And one of the things that I think is important to start with is the difference between online classes and remote classes. Because I think what most of us are trying to do is going to be remote classes. We're not going to do online classes. And I think that the difference is very important because working out and developing an online class requires a lot of work, a lot of preparation. And in some sense, we have to do this on the fly. So we are focusing on remote, which means the only thing that we are changing is the way that we communicate with students. That's kind of like a very important thing. We are not going to develop new materials. We're not going to develop demonstrations or the way that we are handling homework, for example, because simply we don't have time. And if we try to do it, we will definitely not do a good job. So I think that we should focus on doing remote instruction, not online instruction. And given said that difference over there, I think it's also very important to notice that definitely we have to account for certain limitations. So we are never going to be at par with MOOCs or online classes because we're doing this on the fly, and basically it's just a reaction. We are not planning about this. Okay. So what I guess my main point is trying to address the communication with students. And for that, I think I have mainly 4 points, which is what do we do about lecture? What do we do about homework? What do we do about office hours? And what do we do about exams? I think that those are the 4 key things that we can talk about. So again, the main idea is how to interact with students in a more fluid way. And definitely one of the challenges is, if I can start with lecture, maybe I can even write down over here. If I can start with lecture, one of the challenges is, of course, posting videos online. So this, what I'm about to do, is a very good way actually to work it out. If I'm talking about lecture, I can definitely use a board together with my webcam in order to kind of like teach the class in the same way as before. Okay. Now there are a couple of things that we want to be aware when doing this. The first thing is that we have to be aware if our webcam has a mirror image or not. So for example, I don't know right now if what you're looking at over here is mirrored or if it's backwards. But that's something that we can figure out with the software. But again, it's something that can be fixed. So don't think that you need to have like high-end technology or if you need to have very expensive equipments to do it. Even like this basic setup works very good. So I think that keeping in mind that we can find very low-cost solutions is very important. That's very important. Okay. Again, I guess another very important difference that we want to do whenever we're talking about lecture is this idea of synchronous and asynchronous. which means do we do this in real time or do we record the video and then upload it? And I think that definitely it depends on what are the resources that we have. And the main thing for this is context. That means, do we have the internet connection for the instructor to broadcast? Do we have that students have internet connection? I think that having those things in mind is very important to decide whether we want to do asynchronous or synchronous, which means, do we want students to be connected at the same time, like what we're doing right now? You are connected, I'm broadcasting this live. Do we want to do this, or do we want to move to a traditional recording a video, uploading the video, and then the students accessing the video? So from my experience on Wednesday and today here at UCSC, what I did was both, actually. So I did a live stream like what I'm doing right now. And for example, YouTube is very good in that sense because that stream is going to be saved. So whenever we finish this live stream, the video is going to be saved and automatically posted to YouTube. So that means that students have the option to interact with the instructor live. But if for some reason, if they don't have enough connection, if maybe they're back in their residence and they don't have internet over there, or because of time differences, then they can probably not make it onto the live stream. They can still catch the broadcast in another time. So that's what I did for my classes on Wednesday and Friday. I did the thing very similar to what we're doing. We had the live chat, so that means that I could see questions from students. I could address the questions in real time, but some of the students couldn't make it. So really the only thing that I did was I posted the live stream later on. So I think that that's a very important thing. That don't think that this separation has to be very tight. It doesn't have to do one or the other. Actually, we can do some hybrid solution for that, which I think is very important. Now, one of the things to keep in mind whenever we're going for the asynchronous, whenever we want to go completely recording video and then uploading, I think it's very important to realize two important things. One that a lot of people have already talked about is attention span. I will not expect to post an hour-long video and then expect my students to see it if it was not live, if that makes sense. Because engagement has to do with interactions. And if we have just an asynchronous video, that means that there is no interaction. Even though if you're talking to a camera, still the interaction is not there. Like right now, we have some sort of interaction. I can interact with the questions or the comments that you guys are posting over there, or even the interaction happens among yourselves. But if I just post a 1 hour long video, it's basically like asking the students to watch one movie a day. That's the way I think about it. So if you are thinking of going asynchronous because of internet connections, because students don't have the ability to connect, try to think about maybe just recording 20-minute videos, at most 20 minutes. We want to keep this one very, very short. Usually for my classes, I try to post examples after every class. And those examples probably will take me somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes. I think that that's actually a very good length, because otherwise, again, students will probably see or grab their mobile devices to see the videos on, like, maybe in bed or maybe while they're doing something else. If there's no interaction, it's very hard to engage people. So I think that my takeaway is, like, if you want to do asynchronous, cap it. Don't expect to give a lecture with the same length, like an hour lecture. That I don't think is actually reliable. I think on the other hand, if we're doing this synchronous sessions, this probably is good to keep it actually around the 1 hour mark. For example, Wednesday and Friday, I actually realized that I actually spend more time than what I usually spend in classes, which is very surprising. Our classes here at UC Santa Cruz are 65 minutes, and today I actually went over maybe 70 or 75 minutes. I think that even people were a little bit more engaged and more participating. So I guess whenever we're thinking about the synchronous relation, this can go up to an hour for sure. But whenever I'm working out maybe an example or maybe an explanation or maybe showing a description or showing a picture, I probably want to keep that around 20 minutes at most. Because again, otherwise students won't be able to handle that much information. One of the important things, in my opinion, of the synchronous version, if you have the bandwidth for this, is that also it kind of like sits in the same mind frame that you are taking a class. So that means you want to fix a day, you want to fix a time as you would do for your regular classes. The only difference is that you will not be in the same room. So the idea of the structure, I think, is very important. I think that whatever you end up doing, it's very important to keep the same structure to be consistent. For example, for our next quarter, which we're going to start in 2 weeks, I'm scheduled to teach 2 classes. And the way I'm planning to do it is basically having like online streamings like this during our official class time and the class dates. So I'm going to stick it with Pacific time, Pacific Standard Time. So no matter where they are, they know what time the class is convening together. Okay, so I think that that's something very important to keep in mind. Now, let me just briefly mention a couple of tools that you can use for synchronous lectures. One of them is Zoom. So of course, Zoom is probably the most famous one, and most campuses have Zoom over there. And I use it, and it's very good. It depending on your account, you can have up to 300 students at the same time. And again, it's very important to deal with this for interactions. So that's a very good feature that I like. Hangouts is another tool. So Google Hangouts is another tool that if you don't have access to Zoom, that's a free tool that you can use. The only restriction is that the number of participants is only up to 100. You cannot go more than 100. So Zoom is the, I guess, the default option. Hangouts is another option. And definitely then the last option that I would recommend is like what we're doing right now, is a YouTube live stream. So whenever you have YouTube live stream, still you can have this interaction with people, but it's a little bit more distant because it's only based. If you use Zoom or Hangouts, then it's truly a conversation. You can see the student faces and you can share the screen, and I think it's a little bit more fluid. Asynchronous is definitely something that we need to include all the time. Even if we are including the live portion, I think that, as Jennifer is saying, asynchronous is something that we really need to consider. So definitely, I will not recommend only to go synchronous. I will definitely never recommend that. What I recommend is to do synchronous and asynchronous, to do both. So one very good option or feature from Zoom is that we can record the videos. So again, for Wednesday and Friday, what I did was I taught my class using Zoom, and I recorded everything. And then later I posted that. Now with this, what we have is, of course, one problem, and is that videos are heavy, are pretty big, right? So we need to have a way to distribute these videos. So this is very important. And sending the file is definitely not a good idea. So if you record a video, you don't want to send the file to the students, because this file is going to be very big, probably like a couple hundred megs, or maybe even like a gig or something like that. Depends on your quality. So what you want to do is you want to either, I would say, upload it to Canvas. Canvas have some storage. Depending on your Canvas, on your campus, you will have different storage over there. You either want to upload it to Google Drive. Now, again, depending on the license, Google Drive probably will have more storage available for you. You can also use Dropbox, and that's a very good option. And lastly, you want to put it into YouTube. Now, the good thing about using either Canvas or Google Drive or Dropbox is that you can restrict who has access to this. which I think is going to be very important. So we need to I think, restrict the access, because as I was saying before, this is not really an online class. We're not really moving towards an online class. And I've seen some people saying, like, this is a good opportunity to actually open up our classes to everybody. And I'll actually personally be very careful about it, because again, this is something that we are basically doing on the fly. It's not going to be high quality. It's not going to be the best quality. So we want to be very careful how we manage the information. And also for other kind of reasons, for privacy reasons, you don't want everything to be out there. So again, if you use Canvas or Drive or Dropbox, you can restrict, you can select who is your audience. In YouTube, you cannot do that restriction. I mean, you can maybe put your video as in private and then just share the links. That would be an alternative, but I would actually prefer the first three over that. I think that that's very important. I think that one important feature as well is that there is no restriction with the length of the videos. If you use YouTube, probably depending on the number of subscribers, you would have a restriction on the length. But for Zoom, there is no restriction. Again, on Wednesday and Friday, I went way over 1 hour, and there's no problem. And actually, Zoom has very good codecs. So actually, the size of the videos that I got after 1 hour lecture was probably around 150 megs, very small, which I think is very important. And that brings me back to another point that I was going to mention is do not use high quality or high definition videos. Because again, keep in mind that students are going to connect maybe from their cell phone, maybe from a very bad Wi-Fi connection. So if you use high definition videos, that is going to limit the bandwidth that they can use, and probably is not going to be helpful for them. So I would say go for the standard definition. Don't try to go for a high definition. That's something very important, because that way you're going to keep your video size low, and also the quality is going to be good. Now, transcription is something very important, and Jennifer asked about this with YouTube. YouTube, I know that does the automatic transcription. It's not perfect, but it's something that you can kind of rely on. Zoom does not have the automatic transcription. Whenever you save the video, I think that depending on your license, you have the option to have it transcribed. But I think it's mainly through a third party. So I don't think that the regular Zoom account can do the transcription. So that's something important to keep in mind. Now, one thing with this is that, of course, we can do the video recording like what we're doing right now with like you talking to a camera, and people will see your face. Or you can also do slides. That's another option that many people are trying to do. So I'll try to switch this. Maybe I can even open one just random slide that I have in here. Yeah, let me actually show you something about Pi, because since we are very close to Pi Day, why not, right? So what I'm going to do is, let's see if I can share with you my screen. Let's see if I can do this. I hope I can do it. Probably I can't. Okay, never mind. So what I'm going to do is, yeah, let me do it here. So I'm going to show you the PowerPoint actually on my laptop, because Slides from Google has a very nice feature. So let's see. Hopefully you see it over there. This is just my laptop with Google Slides, and down here, let's see if you guys see it. Whenever I see the options down there, you see that there is an option that says captioning. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that on, and that captioning is going to actually transcribe what I'm saying live. So you can see over there that it is transcribing what I'm saying live right now, right? So this is a very nice replacement for that automatic transcribe that you were asking about Zoom. This even sometimes I use it in my own classes when I'm teaching live. But definitely this is a good tool to use whenever you are recording your videos, your asynchronous videos for your classes. If you have your lecture classes as a PowerPoint or as a slide in Google, you can just go into Google Slides. That's really what I did. You can see it over there. This is my Google Slides. And then I present the slides and click into Google captioning, and that will create the transcribe on the fly. So I think that first option is, of course, what we're doing right now, like a conversation with a webcam, with maybe a blackboard on the background. That works very well. Another option would be to have slides. Many people already are teaching with slides, so it would be basically the same thing. The only difference is that you will create a video for that. A third option would be if you have a tablet. So here I have an iPad, and you can use notes as if it were basically a whiteboard. The thing that I use whenever I work out examples is that I use this button right here, which is the recording button. So I can record, and it tells me where I want to broadcast this, if I want to store it or if I want to zoom it. Here, what I'm doing is I'm recording what is happening in my screen. So I can write down whatever expression I have. And then I just stop recording. And then you will see in your files that you will have that video over there. So this is the video that I just took. And this is very handy because you don't need to include any other extra app. You don't need to include any other software. And usually what I do is that I write and I describe what I'm doing with my voice. So basically what students see is this video with me writing something and narrating what is going on. So that's, I think, a very useful idea for asynchronous videos as well. You can do webcam, you can do slides, you can do tablet. And maybe the fourth thing that I can recommend is if you don't have an iPad, you can buy one of those drawing tablets that are around $30 in Best Buy or Amazon. And that really functions the same way as I described here with the iPad. That's a very, very cheap option as well. Also, don't underestimate the power of your cell phone, right? I mean, your cell phone is a camera. So also another way to do it is literally just take video and just write down something on a piece of paper. So you basically serving as the dog camera, that would be a very good way to work with it. So again, those are very low tech, very basic ways to approach it. And I think that it's important to keep in mind the length of lectures for sure. So that was about lecture. That's something that I think will cover most of our things regarding lecture. But we also need to think about homework for sure. So I know, for example, Jennifer is in UT Austin. So you already have something for this, right? And you're using Quest. But for the rest of us mortal people that we don't have Quest, we could also rely to some sort of online homework. I think that basically there are two ways. We can resort to online homework, which includes things like WebAssign or MyMathLab, WebWork, or Edfinity. I think that those are my top choices for math. And in the document that I shared at the beginning, and I'm going to put it also in the description of the video, I list which courses, which math classes are available into those platforms. Again, it depends. It depends on your audience, right? Some tools are more expensive than other ones. It depends on the class size as well. But I think that the online homework is a very good option. Again, a lot of us actually use online homework in regular terms, in regular quarters. So I think that even more in this situation, using online homework is a good idea. But still, if you don't want to use online homework, there's a couple ways that you can deal with paper homework. So of course you can think about having students to handwrite their work, taking a picture and submitting that to you. That's definitely the low-tech way of doing it. But if you want to like go a little bit further, you can remember that Canvas, if you're using Canvas, has the option of turning PDF assignments. So what you can do is send the prompts to the students and then have the students to upload their assignments either as a picture or as a PDF. And the other option, the other great option, at least in my opinion, is Gradescope, which actually just 30 minutes ago, I got an email that is going to be free for everybody up to June. So Gradescope is a great tool. If you can try it out, if you have not used it, go ahead and look for it. Gradescope.com is very good, and they're not paying me any money, which is the sad part. But it's very good because it handles paper submissions. Basically, what students do is they scan their submission either with their phone or with the scanner, or a lot of people actually use their tablets to write down their homework. They will save the PDF and they would upload it through Gradescope. And you will see that it has many good qualities, because if you have TAs, then you can assign different TAs to create different parts of the homework or different homeworks. It's very well organized. It will also save you a lot of time, and of course, it's remote, so you don't need students physically turning the paper, even though they are working it on their either notebooks or on actual paper. So I think that Canvas and Gradescope are very good options to handle paper homework, and online homework is also a good option. And of course, remember, this doesn't have one or the other. You can use a mix of both of them. And yeah, I think that's probably the best thing that we can do for homework. Now for exams, which I think that's one of the most important things, is I guess this is more a philosophical issue, right? More maybe a teaching philosophy issue. Is, do we keep exams? Do we replace exams by something else? I think that it's worth investigating that idea. It's really worth investigating the idea of replacing exams by something else. Because if we want to be honest, we have to face the fact that students may be tempted to using other resources outside of class, right? I know that there are a lot of proctoring systems available, like ProctorU probably is one of the most famous ones, and I know that they also are taking some considerations for this time. There are also other extensions for browsers that will block your browser and only make you available to use the online platform. So there are technological things that we can use. But again, we have to keep in mind that it's not 100% perfect, right? I think also that keeping in mind that changing the type of exams in the way we structure them is very important. For example, for my final next week, what I'm doing is moving from computational problems to more conceptual problems. So really what I end up doing is problems of the kind of like on this type of idea. I write down, for example, an expression like something like the integral of x squared dt equals x cubed over 3 plus 1. And I can ask them, what is wrong with this expression? I know that they cannot plug this into a calculator. So the type of problems that I'm asking now is more conceptual, like identify the mistakes that this expression has, or explain what kind of methods you can use in order to solve this thing. Something maybe more conceptual. Of course, the downside with this is that probably you will have students writing more words, and that will probably take more time grading, which definitely is something that we have to work with. But again, that would be another option for this. So one option is to use your regular exams, to use a proctoring system. Another one is to move into a more conceptual based exam and maybe have it to be open notebook, open calculator, um, basically to accept the fact that they are going to be exposed to these things. Another way is to actually use the online platforms like WebAssign, MyMathLab, Affinity, WebWork, to actually have an assignment count as an exam, basically. The advantage of having these online tools is that they have random parameters. So this is important because if you're dealing with a big classroom, you can actually generate a different version for each person. So that also lowers the temptation of cheating and actually the logistics of that. So keeping that in mind is definitely important. For all of these, you can consider having a narrow window of time for students to submit it. Of course, you have to be very mindful of how much is actually a reasonable time. For example, my exam on Wednesday is going to be actually 4 hours because I'm accounting for connectivity issues. So I don't know if my students are actually still here in Santa Cruz or if they went back to their home, or if they're in a different state or whatever. So I want to accommodate for everybody, and that's why I'm giving more time for them to have time to either print out the exam or scan the exam or have a good internet connection or maybe try it a lot of times. So I think that it's very important for us to accommodate for these situations. So again, this, I believe that would be kind of like the equivalent of having just a different method of delivery, right? We are kind of like having the same mindset as a regular final exam or midterm. The only difference is the way they turn it in. And for this, turn it in using Canvas and Gradescope, it's very, very, very useful. So those are two things to keep in mind. Definitely replacing that with a paper, maybe depending on the type of class that you're teaching, is a very good idea, because also it will lower the stakes on the assignment. So that's something that I will definitely keep in mind. And then the last thing I wanted to touch today was office hours. So office hours, I think, are very important. And basically, the way to handle office hours could be either by video, like what we're doing right now. That's something very important. Again, we can use Zoom for this, or Hangouts, or YouTube. I think that that's a very good way to do it. But also, we can use asynchronous ways of dealing with office hours. If you have Canvas, you can enable discussions in Canvas, which basically are ways to for students to communicate with you. They can post a question and you can reply. And it's basically like almost like a social media type of style, in which there is a post and you can actually make comments on that post. So you can do that in Canvas, or also maybe using the more famous one, Piazza. I've been using Piazza for a long time, and it has helped me a lot with my regular office hours. So I can envision how in this time actually would be way better. Because again, not everybody has access to good internet if you're holding live office hours. So offline office hours, I think, is also a very good option, in which students can go and ask questions, and you can check it anytime and reply to that. Plus, it has the benefit that it's already there. One of the downsides of live office hours is that if I have a class of 200 and only 20 show up and they ask me a problem, maybe the next day I have a different batch of 20 people that will ask me the same question again, right? So with offline office hours, you have the advantage that whatever you type, whatever resources you share, they're already there. So Piazza and Canvas discussions are very good for that. Then also you can enable something more like chat-based. For example, something that resembles this chat for YouTube is you can, if your institution has it, you can find it also in Canvas. Canvas has a chat option. So you can have office hours by chat. That will be only text, but the advantage is that for certain students that don't have access to good internet connections, it will be very helpful actually. So I think that thinking or considering about these chatting options is important. And the other one that I found very reliable is Slack. So maybe you have used Slack before for projects or other things. Slack is very popular, it's free, it has a very good app. So that's also it's a very good option, and it supports LaTeX, which is very important. Piazza also supports LaTeX, and Canvas kind of supports LaTeX. You kind of like have to use an equation editor, but at least you can type some math into that. So I think that that's something very important to keep in mind. Again, make sure to check the file that I shared at the top of the chat, and I'm going to put in the description. I tried to do a compilation of different resources, the different descriptions, also the cost, the possible cost that you have, and I think it's important to have this repo of different things. So probably one of the things that I want to wrap up with is some 7 tips that I think are very important to keep in mind whenever we're transitioning in these things. The first tip that I already showed you is that iPads can record their screen. Super important. iPads can record their screen. Also, if you have a Windows tablet or a Windows, like one of those convertible laptops, Windows also has a native screen capture app. Now with Windows, what you want to do is you want to do a little trick, because this is supposed to be for recording the screencast of a video game. So it's kind of like a little hack. It's also in the document that I share with you guys. Trying to read it over here. Yeah, it's the Xbox app. So you look it over there. Is the Xbox app. You have to choose over there to record video game. It will ask you if you are playing the video game, and you should say yes. And then that's the only thing you need in order to start recording the screen. And you can also capture your mic. This is very important. And something very similar will happen with Mac. You can also record your screen with QuickTime. So that's also a very important thing to keep in mind. So you can record from iPads, you can record from your Mac or your Windows. Whenever you want to record a video, like a webcam video, for example, you want to be very close to a window. That's super important. So if you can see, I'm sitting next to my office window, because natural lighting is very good for cameras. Artificial lighting is not so good. So you want to be very close to a natural source. That's why my board looks very nice, because again, we are very close to a window. So every time you want to record something like this, you want to do it either outdoors or close to a window. That's one very important thing. Audio quality is important. So keep that in mind. If you have a microphone, try to use it. If you don't have a microphone, even your headphones have very good microphones. So that's also a very good idea. If you want to record something, try to see how it works with using headphones and without headphones. And probably using headphones will be better for you. Another tip is that Google Drive usually has a large, if you have an institutional Google Drive, you will probably have a lot of space for your files, which means you can upload the videos over there. So that's something very important to keep in mind. Another thing is that if you have Canvas, you can also create exams and homework using Canvas quizzes. Now, the advantage with that one is that usually those are either multiple choice or fill in the blanks or something that can be automatically created. So creating things in Canvas quizzes is a very good investment for your time. That's something very good. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that whenever you want to use your iPad or your tablet as a board, like I used previously, you want to use just OneNote or Notes, or you don't need to download any of the fancy apps. If you want to keep it within budget, you don't need to buy any other apps. The one that I was showing you earlier was just Notes, the one that comes with every iPad. If you have a Windows, you can also just use your handwritten app for that. So I think that that's super important. Yes, Google Docs has also math type to that, and I think that that's a very useful resource for sure. The good thing also with the Google Docs is that you can see things live, right? So everybody can be either including comments or updating a document. And again, you can basically you choose who can have access to this document. So I think that those things are super important. So that's basically my first approach to what we've been doing. Again, we just recently switched to remote instruction this Wednesday. This is our last day of classes. Next week is going to be our finals week. Then we have spring break, and then we're coming back as remote classes. So actually, our spring quarter is going to be remote. And again, I think that going back to the very beginning is very important to make that difference, that we're trying to do this as remote instruction. We're not trying to do this as online instruction. Online instruction will require you to video edit, to have very nice demonstrations, to actually design your homework in a completely different way. Many times it's self-paced. And really what we're trying to accomplish with remote instruction is actually just to replace the face-to-face interaction, replace it with something else. So I think a very good thing is to keep that in mind. We want to just replace the communication. We don't want to replace instruction, because we don't have time to actually overhaul a whole class with a different setup. So again, my main takeaway is focus on doing remote instruction, not online instruction. Try to see what are the resources that you have for your campus. Try to find out what are the learning management systems that you have, what kind of subscriptions do you have, if you have Drive, if you have Zoom, if you have YouTube, if you have Hangouts, if you have any other type of resource available for you. That I would say that's the main thing that we want to do in order to react. Later next week, I'll probably do something similar with maybe more advanced tips, something like maybe the details about how using Zoom, or how to use slides, or how to use your iPad, or how to record videos. I'll probably do a more advanced video next week, but I wanted to do these basics. First of all, to bring all the resources and the ideas basically together. Again, just Google, YouTube, other things. I've been finding a lot of different Word or Google Docs documents around, spreadsheets with a lot of ideas. So it's good to know that we have a very knowledgeable community around. There's people that have done this for a long time, so definitely we need to reach out to them, and we can keep this low cost. That is something very important. So if you don't have an iPad or you don't have a tablet, you don't need to go buy one fancy one. Again, a very useful drawing tablet, that's the name, drawing tablet, is basically just like a trackpad for the Mac. It's literally like that. And it costs around 30 bucks, maybe 50 bucks, the better ones. And they will serve basically for you as a way to write on the trackpad, but then display that on your screen in the computer. So again, I think that we can do it. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to overhaul everything. We just want to replace and convert this into remote instruction. So again, thanks for watching. I will put the document I was talking in the description, and feel free to reach out if you have ideas. Feel free to comment in the actual YouTube video if you have other ideas that people can implement. Again, the point is not to impose any options, but actually to share the things that people are doing. So feel free to share your own story. Feel free to reach me out either in Facebook or Twitter, or to put your comments over here. And again, thanks for the attention.